Alright, so you're wondering how much it costs to live in New Braunfels, Texas. I'm here to tell you all about the cost living in New Braunfels, Texas. Some of these costs might surprise you, so make sure you stick around to the end to get the full picture of the cost of living right here in New Braunfels. On this channel, we talk about all things New Braunfels. If you want to know more about New Braunfels or the surrounding areas, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're thinking about relocating to the New Braunfels area, give us a call. I get so many calls all the time from people moving to our town, and I absolutely love talking to every single one of you. My name is Russell Monroe. I'm a local real estate agent right here in New Braunfels, Texas. In this video, we're going to talk about the cost of living in New Braunfels, and that's everything from housing, buying, renting, gas, and so much more. So let's get started. So let's start with the big one, housing prices. Now, much like the rest of the country, housing prices in New Braunfels have shot up over the last couple of years. While we are traditionally more expensive than our neighbors to the south in San Antonio, living here can be at a huge discount from our neighbors in the north in Austin. In 2022, the median cost of a house in New Braunfels so far is $385,000. That's a huge discount from high cost of living cities such as Austin, where the median home price comes in at over $600,000. But it's still a good chunk higher than San Antonio, coming at $300,000 in 2022, and less than the national average, which was reported at $428,000 for 2022. In just a few minutes, I'll show you a map of New Braunfels and break down the median sales price in different parts of town, because even though we are a relatively small town at 100,000, there is wide swings in the median sales prices for different neighborhoods here. First, let's talk about household income. According to the 2019 census, New Braunfels' average household income came in at $71,000, which is actually higher than the national average of $65,000. New Braunfels' economy employs 39,000 people, with the largest sectors being in retail, healthcare, food and accommodation, sales and management, office, and admin. Okay, so we talked about owning a house to purchase here in New Braunfels, but what about renting? Well, the average cost to rent an apartment right here in New Braunfels is $1,464, with an average apartment square footage of 894 square feet. That's going to be slightly higher than the San Antonio average of $1,250, but it's going to be cheaper than the $1,735 that you would be paying in Austin. Now, for a single family home here in New Braunfels, the average rent was $2,140. All right, so we've covered how to get you into a home and how much that's going to cost you in here in Braunfels. But now let's talk about how much it's going to cost to keep your lights on. Let's talk about the average utility costs. On average, the monthly utility bill here in New Braunfels comes in at about $165, and that's including electricity, water, sewer, and trash. Now, that comes with the caveat that in the summer, your electric bill alone could get over $200 with running your air conditioning all day. It really just kind of depends on how much you run your air conditioning. On the flip side, in the winter, you can expect your electricity bill to be much, much lower. It's also important to note that some of the areas here in New Braunfels do have gas available, natural gas available for their appliances, which can save you a lot of money on your electricity bill as well. For internet, I know a lot of folks are really concerned about internet nowadays, especially work from home people. But even if you don't work from home, you probably stream, maybe you game. Internet is just super important. So for me personally, I pay about $90 a month for internet, and that's AT&T fiber. It gets 1,000 megabytes per second speeds, easily supports streaming on multiple devices in our house, while my son enjoys all of his gaming adventures flawlessly. Okay, so now we got you in your house. We're paying the utility bills and the internet and everything. But how do we get to work? The Bronfels ranks pretty low for walkability and bikeability. A decent portion of the folks living here do commute to Austin or San Antonio for work. So there are a few select areas where walking is possible, but usually not to businesses, usually going to be to more like restaurants and recreation and stuff like that. Even working locally, the city is just really not set up to support biking and walking to work. Not to mention that it's just far too hot for that 4 or 5 months out of the year. So really having a car here is a must. So obviously the cost of purchasing a car is going to vary really widely depending on your own personal preferences. You can get anything from a $3,000 used commuter car up to an $80,000 lifted F-250. That's really up to you. I can tell you about the gas prices though. So here in New Braunfels, we're averaging about $3.70 a gallon here at the end of July. Compare that to the national average, which is at $4.38 a gallon, or the state average of $3.88 a gallon. So gas is a little cheaper here. Now, obviously, your gas bill is going to vary widely depending on how far you're driving to work and how fuel efficient your vehicle is. But just for an example, if you were working in downtown San Antonio 5 days out of the week and your car got 20 miles to the gallon, you could expect to pay around $66 a week with gas at $3.70 for driving to work. On the bright side, there's really not any tolls in New Braunfels or even around the San Antonio area. There are a few tolls in Austin, but you can really manage to get to the vast majority of the city without ever having to use the toll. They're usually just good for if you're trying to actually go past Austin and continue on north on 35. Plus, if you're an EV enthusiast, you'll be happy to know that our biggest, baddest gas station here in New Braunfels, called Buc-ee's, is loaded with EV charging stations for you. And taking your significant other out for a dinner date here in New Braunfels isn't going to break the bank. The average dinner for two here costing around $40. Now, for those of you with some more upscale tastes, you could probably expect maybe about $100 at some of our fancier restaurants here. Prefer eating at home? Groceries here in New Braunfels are about 6% less than the national average. A gallon of milk is just over $2. A carton of eggs is about $1.50. Plus we have H-E-B, which is just the coolest and best grocery chain in the world that has tons of locally sourced meats and produce and lots of selection. So what about beer here in New Braunfels? Well, if you haven't caught on yet, the name New Braunfels is German, and in our true German heritage, we do love our beer here in New Braunfels. New Braunfels is home to 5 breweries, and there's also tons of tap houses that feature locally sourced beers from New Braunfels, Austin, and San Antonio areas, and I love them. Okay, so when you go to the store, you see the sticker price, and that's what you pay, right? Unfortunately, not here in New Braunfels. Here in Texas, we do have a state sales tax as well as local sales taxes. So here in New Braunfels, you're paying a sales tax rate of 8.25%. The good news is that unprepared food as well as health-related items are exempt from sales taxes here in Texas. As I'm sure you know, we don't have a state income tax here in Texas, so come April, all you got to worry about is filing that federal return. Of course, given that we don't have a state income tax, we got to pay for school somehow. We do have a property tax here in Texas that's levied locally and varies widely from district to district. It can vary from school district to school district, city to city, county to county. Here in New Braunfels, average right around 2% property tax with an average property tax bill after exemptions around $6,000. The cost of healthcare here in New Braunfels is about 7% less than the national average, and we boast 2 really capable hospitals right here in town. Okay, so we talked about the cost of living in New Braunfels and how they stack up against the rest of the nation, as well as a couple of our neighbors. Remember earlier, we talked about the median household income in New Braunfels being $71,000. Given how much cheaper renting and buying is in New Braunfels compared to Austin, you would think the Austin median household income is so much higher than Braunfels, but it's actually only slightly higher at $76,000. So you're definitely getting more bang for your buck here in New Braunfels. Now, a lot of people think about the cost of living being pretty straightforward across a city the size of New Braunfels. Remember, we're only about 100,000 people here, but actually the cost of living and the cost of buying a house can vary widely from one neighborhood to the next. Okay, so let's take a look at that map that I mentioned earlier in the video. And please, folks, remember I am a real estate agent, not an artist. So please excuse the messy map here, but I'm doing my best. I broke it down to 6 areas. Really, if we had all day, we could go, further and break it down into some more smaller neighborhoods than this. But to keep it brief for y'all, just these main 6 areas is what I'm going to stick with today. So we're going to start at the top here and then work our way south. The very most northern area we've got here is called Green in red. Green is actually in a historic district within New Braunfels that houses the oldest dance hall in Texas called Green Hall. There's lots of boutiques, shopping, restaurants. Actually, a pretty walkable area if you're closer into that historic district. Going to be a little bit more expensive. Looking at the mid upper 400s here. Then we go across the highway here to Creekside. Creekside is going to be lots of the major shopping center as far as there's Target, Best Buy, tons of restaurants, Fry High, coffee shops, things like that. It's a great area for shopping. A lot of new build communities out here. You're probably looking in the mid 350s, mid 300s in the Creekside area. So let's continue south. We've got Custom Central on the far left. That's just kind of a big area. There's just a lot of custom homes out here, a lot of bigger lots, larger lots, hills, trees. It's a beautiful area. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, upper 400s, lower 500s here. Coming down into town here, we've got the Hills. Okay, this is kind of really close to downtown. There's a lot of hills here. It's going to be a little bit older neighborhoods, really nice ranch style houses. It's going to be a little bit more walkable for most of the neighborhoods here, really close to Landa Park, the river, our downtown district. Going to be upper 400s, lower 500s here, okay? Moving down, we've got old New Braunfels, okay? So this is going to be a lot of your more classic 1950s, 1960s style houses, a little bit smaller houses, smaller lots. There's a lot of renovation happening here. This is a great spot for investors. You can find houses from 200s up to the 500s here. It really just varies on the level of renovation that's happened with the house. Really awesome area. Slightly less walkable, smaller lots than the Hills. And then the final area, we got Fisher / South. So this is just south into town, mostly new builds as you work south and out of town. You've got a few areas in here that are going to be from like the 90s and then into the last 10, 20 years as you move farther out from town. The area here is going to be about the mid 300s. Going to be a lot more parks, less shopping and restaurants, although there's always going to be shops and stuff along the frontage road of the highway here. But quick access to highway is really, really good high value area. If you like parks, you like hiking, almost if you like newer homes. Almost every community here has some kind of pool or something like that. So, all right, there you go, folks. Again, my name is Russell. I'm a local agent right here in New Braunfels. If you're thinking about relocating to Texas for a lower cost of living, give me a call. I would love to answer any questions you might have. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can continue to learn about all that our great town has to offer.